Last league I was farming Heist for around a week or two at the league start and I made quite a lot of currency from it. So to no surprise, a lot of people have been asking me how good is Heist going to be this time around, what build I would use for it, and am I gonna farm it again at the league start. So to answer that last question, no, I'm not going to farm Heist this time around. I might do it for around half an hour to an hour just to get some early currency, but I am definitely not going to stick with it. But that doesn't mean that I think Heist is going to be bad this time around. In fact, I think it's going to be even better. The main reason why I don't want to farm it is very simple. I just want to do something different. I farmed Heist in recent leagues a lot, so this time around I just want to do something else. But what that's going to be is a topic for another video. So in today's video, I want to talk about how to farm Heist at the league start and what are some positives and negatives about this strategy. And if you are interested in my build recommendation for it, I'm going to talk about it in my next video. Today I want to focus just on the strategy. So let's start with the best part about Heist, which is the fact that you can start making currency with it pretty much immediately. You don't need any Atlas progression. In fact, you can start farming Heist at level 60 while you are still not done with the campaign, so you don't get the penalty of minus 30% resistances for killing Act 10 Kitava. Now, if you want to farm Heist for much longer than that, things get a little bit more complicated. So let's start by looking at the rewards you can get from farming contracts, which depend on the type of contract you are running. And by the way, if you want to know more about the mechanic about farming Heist, you can check out my Heist Blueprints farming guide on maxroll.gg. The two contracts that I mentioned, which are lockpicking and demolition, are gonna give you the most amount of currency early on. So lockpicking is gonna give you jewelry and currency. So currency, of course, is good for profit and jewelry good for chaos recipe. And from the demolition, generic actually gives you most amount of the rewards because it drops not only currency but also jewelry. So the way you should look at generic, it's basically like both of these in one. There are some other types of contracts that also can spawn generic rewards like perception and engineering, but from my experience, demolition has them way more often. If you want to farm some blueprints later on, you will want to start generating some Gianna reveals. And these can only be farmed in counter-thaumaturgy, perception, and deception contracts, because these are the only ones that you can hire Gianna for. And in case you don't know what Gianna reveals are, basically whenever you are revealing any blueprint, you will be able to use Wakano reveal or Gianna. And Gianna provides up to 45% discount, and this discount depends on her highest level of any job. So most of the time that's gonna be deception, so here it's level 6, because I also have equipment which gives her +1 to job level. And by the way, do not look at this text, this always has been bugged, it is wrong. She actually provides up to 45%. Without this, it would be level 5, so it would be 40% reduced cost of reveal. So whenever you will be revealing blueprints, most of the time for revealing any wings, you will want to use Gianna because wings are very expensive. So here, for example, I would reveal this one and this one. Maybe let's skip that one. And then you would use Wakano to reveal some of the rooms, which are much cheaper. So you want to use Wakano on these. So maybe here I would reveal the currency, fragment, here another currency, and maybe some of the essence ones. I'm gonna talk about the type of rooms you want to reveal a little bit later. For now, let's go back to the contract. So again, you will want to do lockpicking and demolition just to generate currency. You want to do counter-thaumaturgy for Gianna reveals, perception and deception also for Gianna reveals. But if you look at the types of rewards you can get from these three contracts, counter-thaumaturgy also gives you jewelry and currency, which is, well, pretty good for profit. The perception also gives generic rewards, just like demolition, and also jewelry, which is good for chaos recipe. But when you look at the deception, it doesn't really have that great of rewards. It has divination, but it actually has been nerfed last league, and it only gives you 2 stacked decks, which are not really that crazy in terms of currency. So you actually most of the time will want to skip deception, which leaves us with 4 types of contracts you will want to farm if you want to farm blueprints later on. Lockpicking and demolition just for raw currency, counter-thaumaturgy and perception for some currency, but also the reveals. If at any point you actually run out of those for contracts, then I would actually consider farming Deception. So now let's look at the example. So let's say I just reached level 60. I would go to Wakano, purchase items, and this would be item level 60. I would go through them and search for these for contracts. So Demolition, here is the one that I would buy. Demolition again, I would buy this one. Skip Brute Force, Deception, so this is the one that would give you Reveal, but it doesn't really give you that much profit, so you could skip this one. Then you would search for other ones, and here is a Perception, so you could buy this one too. Important thing to know is that you will actually want to do some of the other types of contracts just to level up your rogues and unlock new ones. So in case you don't know, if you do the first contracts with Tib, you will also unlock Tulina, and then if you do a contract with Tulina, you will unlock Nenet. And then if you do a contract with Karst, you will unlock Hak, then with Hak you will unlock Niles, then Vindiri, and then Jayana. If we look at the prices of contracts, we will notice that most of them are purchasable with Chance Orbs. Some of them you can buy with Alchemies, but you will run out of Chance Orbs more often than Alchemies. And to prevent that, you want to focus more on lockpicking contracts, because these are the ones that give you the most amount of bubblegum currency, which of course includes Chance Orbs. But even with that, you still might run out of them. So if that happens to you, what you want to do is you can go to any act. So let's go to Act 10, to Oriath, and here at the vendor, you can buy the Chance Orbs with Orbs of Fusing. So basically, whenever you drop Fusing Orb, look at it as a Chance Orb, and this way you will be able to buy more contracts. And if you think it's a loss, actually at the beginning of the league, for the first few hours, most of the time Fusings are the same price as Chance Orbs. Sometimes they're actually even cheaper, because people don't really focus on linking at this stage of the game. So to summarize, at level 60 you want to go to Wakano, start buying contracts, focusing mostly on demolition and lockpicking early on, just to build some of your currency pool. And then you want to also start buying some of the perception and counter thaumaturgy. And if you don't have that many contracts to buy, because maybe you got unlucky, you also want to start buying some deception and also some of the other ones, because you will still need to run some of them to level up some of your other jobs to be able to run some of the blueprints, because they do have certain level requirements for pretty much every single job. To be able to buy more contracts, you will have to level up, because every time you level up, the Wakano shop resets and you will be able to buy more contracts. So important part of the strategy is to manage your experience. Because let's say you buy 5 contracts from Wakano, and then you almost full clear one of them, and let's say you get half of your level, then you do the second contract and you get the second half of a level, so you will level up in 2 of them, so you will have 3 left. Then you buy another 5, then again you do 2 contracts, so you're left with a lot of contract that you didn't run. And then you have to buy more and more, and you actually might run out of currency very fast this way. And then you might reset the shop and not be able to buy any contracts, and then you run more of them and you level up too fast. So what you want to do is you actually don't want to kill too many monsters. Preferably you want to have somewhere between 5, maybe up to 10, but most of the time somewhere around 5 contracts in your inventory, just to be safe in case you don't have any good contracts to buy from Wakano. So you don't want to kill too many monsters. Most of the time, in fact, you actually want to kill as least monsters as possible, because usually you have quite a lot of contracts to be able to buy, especially early on when you also want to buy some of the other ones to be able to just level up your jobs. Another important reason why you don't want to level up too fast is because once you reach level 67, then if you reach level 68, the shop will still reset, but item level of contracts will not go up. And then when you reach, I actually don't remember the exact number, but I believe it's level 70 or 72. That's the point when you still will buy level 67 contracts, but they will no longer grant you reveals. Which means that at this point you want to run all of your counter and perception contracts so you can get your Gianna reveals, so that after level 72 you only have demolition and lockpicking, because for these ones you don't really care about reveals, you mostly care about currency you get from them. And at that point you still want to run some of the contracts. You can actually run a contract that you buy from Akano, I think up to level 85. I think I tested it one time and I was just buying lockpicking and demolition, and at that point, like after level 70, I started killing more and more monsters just so I can actually level up, and I was able to reach even level 85. But somewhere around level 80 to 85, you want to swap to running contracts that you buy from other players. And to buy them, you can either go to a regular trade or you go to the bulk section, and here you check for all of the contracts, and you want to buy them with item level at least 68, and you want to buy only counter, perception, or deception. If you still care about getting some currency or chaos recipe, you can go for perception and counter. If you only care about just rushing for the reveals at this point and you want to run blueprints, focus more on deception. But most of the time, deceptions are gonna be more expensive, so if you want to save some money, run some of the other ones. And you can of course do something like this, where you check for all of the item levels. You don't want to check for all of them, because you only can search for 10 different items at the same time. So here it would be 9, and you would just search for them, and you would just buy them. At the league start, you probably will have to pay somewhere between 1 to 5 chaos per contract, and then you remove these, and you search for the ones with the highest item level, but item level 83 might not really be available early on. If you are geared enough though, you want to focus on running as high item level contracts though, because you want to drop high item level equipment, which not only can be pretty expensive early on in the league, you also will need it yourself. Because for example, on Cloak, you want job speed as your main stat, and this one, to have the highest tier of mod, you need item level 81. And if you want to craft the tools, you will need item level at least 83 for the +1 to certain level of jobs, or +1 to level of all jobs, which is item level 82. So you do want to focus on high item level contracts so you can self-farm the equipment. And then once you do have pretty good gear, and by the way, if you want to craft them, just alteration spam them, or if you want the guaranteed job speed, you can also do the harvest craft, which is the reforged speed. This one guarantees the job speed, but it doesn't guarantee which tier it's going to be, so you will need to craft it a few times. And yes, when it comes to equipment, you pretty much just care about job speed on every single one piece of equipment, except for the tool one, which is the middle one. Just to show you in game, this one, you want to have +1 to level of all jobs, or +1 to level of the main job. And everywhere else, you can see here, I just have job speed here, here, and here. And you want it to be as high tier as possible. And then as a secondary thing on Bruges, you might want to go for the Scarab, because that's the main reward you will want to focus on, but I'm gonna talk about that in a little bit. And then on Gianna, you also want to have chance on completing Heist to generate an additional reveal with Wakano. If you can get one like that, that gives you +1 level to all jobs, and also the chance to get the additional reveal with Wakano, you might want to craft 2 of them and then just swap them depending on what you are doing. If you are running contracts, you just use the chance to generate additional reveal. And then if you are revealing blueprints, you swap to +1 level job to have the cheaper reveals, because again, it depends on Gianna level. And if you run blueprints, you also want to have +1, because the higher the level, the faster they also do their job. So once you have pretty good gear, of course you don't need all of the mods on every single one follower to be tier 1, but you want to have decent amount of gear. And if you have saved up some of the Wakano and Gianna reveals, you probably want to have at least 10, 20 of them before you run blueprints, but you probably should have way more than that, because you're gonna run a lot of contracts to get to this point. Then you want to start running blueprints. And when it comes to running blueprints, I would not start running them until you can handle item level 80. So just buy item level 80. They should go for between 5 to 15 chaos. just buy one of them, maybe reveal some of the rooms, or if you want to test, just in case you don't know if you can survive it, just buy one and run it, or you can just run any contract. The difficulty of contracts and blueprints should be the same, and of course you don't need to run them with any rarity, so you can just scour all of them and run them white, because the rewards that you get from the chest and at the end of blueprints do not scale with the rarity of the contracts. When it comes to revealing blueprints, there are basically two ways to approach this. First way is if you want to have more consistent profit. This way you would reveal some of the wings with Gianna. You probably still would not want to go for all three, because when you reveal the wing, next one is gonna be more expensive and next one is gonna be even more expensive. So if coins are pretty expensive, you don't want to reveal all of them, but if coins are pretty cheap, you can go for all three. But it also is going to depend on prices of blueprints. If blueprints are pretty cheap, you might just want to run them without revealing too many of them. So again, if you want to have more consistent profit, you would reveal some of the wings, and then you would use the Wakano reveals to reveal some of the rooms, and then when you are running blueprints, you would run to the sides, pick up some of the currency, essences, and so on, and then at the end you would get the reward. But if you want to have potentially better results, but a little bit more inconsistent, you might want to focus just on running as many blueprints per hour without going for the side rooms. You still might want to get some side rooms, the ones that are not revealed by you, just they are revealed automatically, because sometimes you will have, like for example here, I already have essence and 2 currency room revealed. You might still want to go for them, but you would not want to reveal any additional wings and reveals, and you would just go for the reward at the end. This way is pretty good if blueprints are very cheap and coins are expensive, because this way you don't need any coins for additional reveals, you don't need to run any contracts, you just go for reward at the end. But again, it can be a little bit inconsistent, and if you get unlucky, you don't get anything good at the end, you're gonna be potentially even losing money. So what I would recommend is early on, when you do some of your first blueprints, you're gonna have some of the Gianna and Wakano reveals saved. I would reveal some of the rooms. So here I would probably reveal this one and this one, maybe not reveal the last one. And again, maybe coins are gonna be cheap, and by cheap I would say 500 coins for one chaos and more. If they are around 300, that I would say is kind of expensive, maybe 350 even. So you would reveal some of them, and then you would go with Wakano and reveal some of the rooms. So what rooms you should reveal? Well, it really is going to depend on the economy, what is going to be expensive, but generally you want to reveal currency room, essence rooms, ultimatum, which there is none of them here, and the fragments, which there's also not a single one here. The reason why you want to reveal fragment rooms is because they can give you scarabs, which can be pretty expensive. Then currency, of course, just for generic currency. Ultimatum gives you catalysts, which early on are very expensive. And essence rooms are actually not necessarily for the essences, but for the essence scarabs. They actually drop a lot of essence scarabs, and essence scarabs are very expensive, especially early on. So here I would reveal these 2 essence rooms. Here I would reveal this currency, this essence, and more currency. And that's basically it. I would not reveal anything else. And then you just get the contract of a planning room, blueprint. And then I would put always the highest level rogue. That's because the higher level they are, the faster they do their job. And again, we don't really focus on the side rooms. You just want to get some additional rewards from them. Even if you fully reveal them, you still want to do them as fast as possible. So you don't really care too much about getting more rewards. For example, from Vindiri, you want to do them as fast as possible. So you want to do it with level 6. You put all of them like that. And then the blueprint is planned, and you start running it. So you would do it like that for a little bit until you run out of all of your Gianna reveals, and then I would check the economy. How expensive are blueprints, how expensive are coins, and so on. And you unfortunately are going to have to decide for yourself. Do you want to just buy as many blueprints as possible that are item level 80 plus, preferably 83, because that's going to give you highest item level basis? Or do you want to get more consistent profit by revealing additional wings and rooms to get some additional rewards this way? Another thing to remember is if you want to get more rewards from the side rooms, you will want to focus a bit more on scarabs, so you might want to craft your brooch for a chance to duplicate contain scarabs and some additional job speed if you can get it, but this might be a little bit more expensive to get 2 of these mods, but that would be preferable brooch with 2 of these mods. So again, chance to duplicate contain scarabs and percentage increase job speed. So this one has 15% contain scarabs and 9% job speed, so that one is decent. This one will have 13%, so ones like that are pretty good. And by the way, these are all of the equipment that I was using in the beginning of last league, so I did craft all of them myself. And the way I was crafting them, I was just alteration spamming until I hit one of the good mods. So here, for example, either the Scarab or Job Speed, then Augmentation and Regal. The tool I would spam for +1 and then just Augmentation and Regal and hope to get something good. And if I actually did hit something good, I would also exalt them. And for the this piece of equipment and for the cloak, just focus on job speed, which you can easily hit with just alteration spamming. And you hope to get something else, like a reduced hiring fee is decent, but it's not really necessary. Now let's talk a little bit about the rewards that you can get at the end of blueprints and what you should focus on. So when it comes to the rare items, usually you don't focus on them too much, but very early on, within the first few hours, you actually can get some good chests or weapons that with some good rolls can sell for quite a little bit. But it also can take a little bit of time to identify which ones are good. For example, here, check which mods have what tiers and so on. So it can take a little bit of extra time, but you can find something good, especially the chest. You want to focus on checking if they are 6-linked. Because if they are 6-link and they have some pretty good mods, you can make a lot of money from these items, especially within the first few hours. After that, things like trinkets usually will not give you that much profit. You can check for the one that gives you chaos orbs have a chance to be converted to divines, but this is very rare. Some of the other ones can be worth a little bit, but you're not gonna make money from them that often. The Chaos Orbs and things like Gemcutter Prism, Valors, and so on are a very good source of just consistent profit, so you will always just click on any one of them when there is no like good actual reward, like a rare item or a unique. And speaking of uniques, of course, you want to focus on some of the replica items. There's not that many of them that are expensive, but still you can find one. And of course, the biggest money maker from Heist is the Heist bases. So most of them are jewelry, things like helical ring, focused amulet, simplex amulet, and so on. They are very expensive, but I do predict that this league we will actually have way more bases that are going to be pretty expensive, especially early on, because this is going to be mostly a melee league, so people will want some of the maybe axes with rage mods and so on. And some of these scepters can also be pretty expensive, so oscillating scepter, stabilizing, and alternating scepter. I can't really give you a full list of which items you should focus on because we don't know what the economy is gonna be like, how many people will actually care about the melee bases from Heist, how expensive are gonna be maybe some of the rings because of the addition to of Calandra. So maybe some of the ring bases that weren't that expensive now will be pretty expensive because of reflecting them or maybe recombinating them. So at the beginning, just make sure to check every base and make sure to check their item levels because the difference of item levels, sometimes between 84 and 85 or between 83 and 84 can be a huge difference because it can unlock some of the new modifiers and the difference can be between 50 chaos and even 5 divines depending on the base. So make sure to check the item level of all of the bases. On top of that, I think the tempering orbs are gonna not be that expensive this league because of the rune crafting and also some of the bases that you can find here with enchants, the weapon ones. Chests will still be good because we cannot rune craft on the armors, so you still might want to check on for some of the enchants on the armors and also the tailoring orbs. So tempering are probably gonna be cheap, tailoring still are gonna be decently expensive. And that's basically it when it comes to the rewards from Heist. So now let's summarize how you want to farm Heist at the League Start. Once you reach level 60, you want to talk to Akano in Rogue's Harbor and you want to start buying contracts. You want to do it at level 60 so you can do Chaos Recipe, and you want to buy Demolition and Lockpicking to get a good amount of currency, and then you start buying Counter Thaumaturgy and Perception to also get some Gianna reveals. Once you get good amount of them and you reach level around 80 to 85, you start buying contracts from other people, and also you start focusing on finding equipment and start to gear up all of your followers. Once you have most of their jobs leveled up to level 3, level 5, level 4, depending on the job, and you also have some good equipment, mostly with job speed, +2 level of jobs, and some chance to duplicate scarabs, then you start going for blueprints, preferably item level 80+, so you can find high item level bases. And then you go and reveal them using your reveals that you got from previous contracts. And depending on the economy, you want to focus either on buying more blueprints or buying just contracts and revealing additional rooms if the markers are very expensive. And when it comes to rooms, you want to focus on revealing essences, actually even map rooms. I didn't mention that room. That room also could be pretty good. So essence, map, ultimatum, fragments, and currency. These are the best rooms to reveal. And then you run blueprints, or you want to run them as fast as possible so you can get as many of rewards at the end of blueprints. Things like Heist bases, replicas, tempering orbs, and possibly some sixlings. So I hope this video was helpful, and in my next video I'm gonna talk about the build that I would use for Heist. And that's exactly the build that I used last season. So thanks for watching and see you next time.